going to play Frosty the
Wait.
Snowman.
Oh. Why should you
Perfect.
Yeah, we got that in.
You know,
All right. It's
Arch
cold.
Yes, it's very cold.
Here's another song.
Arch is still in Ireland, we think, where
hope.
he's missing in action at the moment. We miss him terribly, so
He ate-
hopefully he'll be with us all next
He probably
week.
ate a lot of oatmeal and kippers over there.
Is kippers?
Well,
What are
that's
kippers?
Herrings.
Herrings?
Herring
Is that the
fry-
same?
they
Kippers
have
and herrings?
herring and oatmeal and maybe bacon and eggs. Who knows? I hope he had a good time.
I hope he did too.
Yeah, I hope he's having a good time still, if he's still there. I hope he isn't in a hospital. That's
Don't
why.
think like that.
Well,
You know, everybody, this is Mike Sallen, our illustrious producer and
illustrious,
show
no, but old, yes.
creator.
All right. And here's our beautiful young woman who's filling in for me, generally, because I can't remember what to say half the time. All right.
I have to do my part. What's my name?
Kiera
That's right. Miner.
Miner. I was close. I was going to say Morton.
It's just Kiera, kind of like Madonna. You just say it's Kiera. We'll leave the minor off. What do we got?
All right. Okay.
What are you playing? What was that?
It's an old French song. Very nice song.
So we moved from Ireland to
Yeah,
French.
They had on TV a great big show about the 100th anniversary of the writing by Francis Scott Key's of
The Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah. And
You
it was
gonna
a
play some for
beautiful
us?
program. They sang it. They had a great big symphony orchestra in Washington, D.C.
Beautiful.
And they had a woman who was an operatic.
She sang it?
She sang it, and she didn't get flustered and forget the name, the words. Everybody,
Has that happened to you
somebody
before?
said, one of the singers said everybody forgets the word.
Very good.
The rocket's red glare, the
Bombs
bumpers
bursting in air
gave proof
through the night that our flag was still there. I think we're going to need to spare our audience the rest of the song.
It goes up 2 or 3 keys.
Yeah, I can't hit those notes. The home of the brave.
Something like that. All right. But Francis Scott would have liked it that we played
I
it.
think he would have too. It would have been the best rendition he'd ever heard.
Baltimore. That's where the show came from, Baltimore.
Okay.
Because that's where there's a Fort McHenry.
Okay.
Is the but if he was here, he'd tell you how many people are in Fort
By
McHenry.
he, you mean Arch. If Arch was here.
He would tell you all the data of how many square miles Baltimore is and how big Fort McHenry is.
We miss that insight.
Well, he
and
knows it.
He knows everything.
He does know. He knows about 98.9%.
Yep.
We're the 1% that we're not sure that we even know the 1%.
No, I just fake it most of the time.
What was the name of the Republican candidate for president? He took on Obama. He came
that
from
McCain?
Utah. He was our governor.
That wasn't was that Romney?
Romney.
Romney.
Yeah, that's the guy. Romney said one. I was talking to the guy, to Michael. He was at a fundraiser, and he was talking to all these fat cats, the guys who are multi-millionaires.
The money
and billionaires.
guys.
Which is, so what? They
That's-
made the
that's
money.
the way it
Great.
goes.
Why not? That's it. Okay, so he said, well, he says, you got to remember there's 47% of the people, and they don't pay taxes, and they don't work, and they're a bunch of bloodsuckers and stuff like that. They have a tape on this. They played it.
Oh.
Well, you know, he didn't mean anything by it. Okay, I mean, what was he saying?
Was that the one where he was at a dinner and got recorded?
They got it all recorded,
Yeah.
this whole thing. Yeah, he was at a fundraiser. Okay.
Yeah, but he was at dinner. He didn't know that somebody was
there was
listening.
a reporter
Exactly. That
who
he thought
was
he
at a camera, and I guess he must have had it in for him for some reason or
Guess
other. I
so.
don't know. He taped it. Okay. All right.
tisk tisk.
I still think that Romney. Well, he got about 48 million votes. Well, the other guy got another 5 million. But that's a lot of votes. A lot of people in America voting for that man. And I think he could run again if you want to know.
I sure don't think so. Hope not. Nope.
Well, it's up to him. Okay.
I don't think he is. Hillary is our
well, she's the Democratic
yeah.
candidate, she says.
But I can't imagine Romney. I remember hearing a piece of news that he was really drained over the whole process.
Well, they told him he was going to win.
Yeah.
And under circumstances, you know, one of those debates, he made Obama look bad on one of the foreign policy stuff. He's a bright guy, you know. You don't make $1 billion unless you know a lot of stuff.
That's true.
Okay. Well, he's a bright guy, and he has a lot of kids who are bright, and none of them, 5 sons, and they didn't go in the service. So they must be smart.
Oh, I think there's plenty of smart people that go in the service.
You know,
because I know you're one of them.
I was one who was in the service. I'm not so smart. I enlisted for crying out loud.
What were you thinking?
I was a Pearl Harbor Avenger.
Wow.
Well, that was the term they used for guys like us. The sergeant says, he says, you guys, I think we went on with 4 other guys in the neighborhood. We went down to the recruiting office on Commonwealth Ave, and BU took over Braves Field, and it was a baseball field in the back. Anyways, we went there, and it was a great big line.
Oh, wow.
We had to wait for hours, and the sergeant came out, and he said, you're not going to get in today. We were trying to enlist.
Yeah.
This was 42, shortly after Pearl Harbor. We were trying to enlist, and we couldn't enlist. There were so many guys that wanted to enlist.
Wow.
So he said, come back tomorrow. I said, why would it be any different tomorrow? He said, you'll come at 6:30.
Yeah.
I said,
first
6:30.
thing in the morning.
Everybody's yelling at me, and what'd you ask him for? We'll never get up at that time. What we did, one of the guys had a car, and we all went to his house, and we got him up 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how the heck we did it. We had coffee, and we got there at 6:30, and he put us in seats. He said, oh, you guys are back. I said, yeah. He said, well, we'll get you in today.
Nice.
And then when somebody was yelling at us, you'll be sorry. Well, we enlisted.
Were you sorry?
No,
I didn't think you were. You've never given me the impression that you were sorry for that adventure.
But I've been angry since 1944. I was telling Rini, I figured it out. So many bad things happened that year, combat stuff, with the guys in PTSD and everything, you know.
It's very, very tragic.
Terrible. I'm over at the VA and having stuff worked on and things, and I meet these young guys, you know, and they're out of it, you know. They're in Vietnam, they've been in Iraq and Afghanistan, and terrible stuff. Walking down the street every morning, and there's a bomb down there at the end of the street. They don't know where it is, and if they have a dog with them, maybe the dog sniffs it. If not, and the dog would disappear. The whole thing is
heartbreaking
and terrible. And
well, they're lucky that you can be there.
We took off in a bomber. We didn't. By the way, they're having my brother-in-law called me up this morning. He said they have down at the Cape and at the airport down there, they have a B-24, which is the bomber. He knew I flew him. So he says, it's down here, a real bomber, and you can come in. He says, I called up this reporter for the Cape Cod News or something, told him about you.
Oh.
He says, terrific. He says, get him down here from Brookline down to this place down, this airport down in Falmouth or someplace. And then this guy will interview me. The plane's going to be gone Thursday. So how am I going to fly down? Well,
I think so. I think that's how you have to get there.
Thanks. So, he says, you at least flew in these things for a long time. We flew them for a year. And the rivets, they made it on the assembly line. The Ford Motors Willow Run was a mile-long assembly line.
Okay.
Ford plant, and they put our trucks on the B-24 bombers from the superstructure. They built them on that. The women, they had a lot of women and men, and everybody was made out with aluminum,
Yeah.
So all these, and when you got hit, bad things happen on the plane. The rivets would fly out. I said, I can see daylight here in the night.
That is not a good sign.
No, he says, that's bad. We can't. One of the guys had putty. The putty would freeze. It was 30 below zero and no pressurized cabin.
I think I remember you telling me
I
about
told
this.
you.
You
Okay.
did
Well,
tell me
anyways,
about this.
It's an old story.
No, but it's a very dramatic experience.
Well, but bad thing. But they also told us before we left, we were supposed to go to the Pacific, and the last minute they said, no, you're going to Europe. But we didn't know. They put us on a troop train.
Yeah.
And off we went from San Francisco outside March Field.
Okay.
We went on a troop train for 7 days and 7 nights across America. And every time we come to some little town, and they all knew these people were all lined up at the stations. There was a place where Buffalo Bill Cody, his birthplace.
Okay.
Wyoming or someplace, I can't remember. Anyways, the whole town, all the men and women and children, the old guy, everybody was outside cheering and waving flags. Train stopped, and they gave everybody cake and cookies and cigarettes. That was the trip across the country.
Yeah. That was very meaningful.
These people know that we're going places.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah. That was through the mountains and the Rockies and everything.
Must have been quite the ride.
Yeah, it was a heck of a ride.
Did you get a sleeping car, or did you have to sit the whole time?
They had these freight cars which they put up triple deckers to sleep on, and they, the officers had it a little better, I think. I was a technical sergeant. Anyways, we got to Newport News. Our plane had problems, and it wasn't going to. We weren't going to meet it. Anyways, they had a fast. They said it was a very fast merchantman. I think it was called the Governor Butner or something. It was a big ship.
Okay.
And they put on board all kinds of troops: Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force guys like us, Army, Air Corps. I said, well, where's the convoy? Where's the destroyers and the carriers? We're going to, They said, no, this is a fast ship. And we can outrun the submarines. Everybody started worrying. And then after we left we were up on the upper deck. The captain came and met with there were 5 Army Air Corps bomber crews that he was taking across. We had a small section on deck. And we were sleeping 3 or 4 in a room or something. Anyways, he says the gun crew was left behind.
What?
We have all these 50 caliber and 20 millimeter
Nobody knows how to
guns
shoot them
on the plane, on the ship.
Yeah.
You guys have been working at this stuff for the last year, right? Yeah, fine. Give you something to do while you're crossing. That's what we did. We were the gun crew.
You learned how to shoot them.
Well, we knew how to shoot them.
Okay.
Yeah,
but you got to be the crew, even though you weren't anticipating it.
If they saw a submarine,
got it.
We were supposed to shoot at them. They also had a 5-inch gun, fore and aft. They had a couple of artillery companies also on board. They knew how to use cannon. So the captain said, well, we're in better shape than I thought we were. This is a Navy captain.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, well, so we got
Well, thank you for sharing all that.
We got to North Africa.
Is that where you landed?
Yeah, North Africa, and then we got off. Everybody was in pretty good spirits. on this ship, way down below, and it was sad. I didn't realize we had Nisei, American Japanese soldiers, a company of Nisei troops, infantry, a regiment. I don't know. There must have been 500 guys. I can't remember how many. And the officers, I think some were Japanese and some were American. But they were sending them to Europe. All their relatives were in these prison camps up in the Northwest. They were supposed to be spies, their families and stuff. Here's these guys volunteering, and they're sending them to Europe.
Wow.
They fought bravely, and they were, I think, one of the most decorated companies in the service in World War II.
Wow.
More Purple Hearts and more Silver Stars. They were very brave. Well, I met them on the ship.
Yeah.
Where did they have them? Down at the bottom. And they were all sick. They were all seasick, all going across. But they were good guys, and I liked them. And I met them again in Italy.
Really?
Because we went from North Africa. We flew across to an air base in Italy. and these guys were up ahead of us at a lot of action on the ground.
Yeah.
Bad stuff.
I'm sure.
Guys. One of them was Japanese, and I think he was a Hawaiian, and he was an officer in this group. He lost an arm there in Italy.
Mm.
I don't know if he was a senator, U.S. senator. This guy, can't remember his name, but it'll come to me. Arch would know this.
Yes, he would. And where is he?
That's my war story for tonight.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you for listening to that nonsense.
It wasn't nonsense. That's history.
Yeah, it is
From the
history.
horse's mouth.
I'm a horse, right?
Should we do our play?
So what's going to happen? Yes. But before we do that, what about Martha Coakley versus Charlie Baker?
I don't even know what to say about all that. I know Arch is going to be heartbroken that Steve Grossman didn't get it, and he's going to feel responsible for it because he wasn't here to help, propel the campaign in Steve's direction. She's not my favorite person, but I also don't know a lot about her.
We don't know. The other guy was in the Big Dig, and he was always handling the money end of it, and they say some funny things happen, and they blame it on him, and with the budgets and everything. Meanwhile, 15,000 people got jobs out of it for about 7 years, or 5, 6, 7 years.
That was a big deal.
You said it. It was the biggest.
It was the biggest.
Was so many. Was it a boondoggle? Well, some of it maybe.
Yeah. And it really made a difference for the city.
I think
in the end.
Yeah, I think so. Now they waited all this time to do something on the waterfront because of Mayor Menino. They kept trying to figure out who would be best to be out down there on the waterfront. So now
there's still some battles about that.
They got all these hotels down there.
Yeah,
now.
We need more hotels down there, though.
They do.
Yep.
All right, so
we're gonna do our play now.
Okay,
all
we
right.
gotta play.
Okay. This is called Illegal Nuts. Can we say when you wrote this?
Yeah.
Okay, Arch doesn't like to say. He likes to say it's from the vault.
It
is from the vault, but I like to say the date.
2008.
Yeah,
anyways.
exactly. It gives perspective to the audience where we're coming from here.
And it's about.
Go ahead.
You tell.
Well, it's about the Olympics in China in 2008 to give you guys foundation, which we don't usually do. So consider yourselves lucky. So here we go. Read this newspaper story about China.
Everything we buy seems to come from there.
Well, the price is always right.
The Olympics are being held there, aren't they?
Making our team is tough.
4 years of dedicated training.
And little financial assistance.
Different in other countries.
It all started in ancient Greece 2,400 years ago.
Then the game stopped.
Too pagan.
Picked up again around 1890.
Controversial place to have them this time.
In a communist country.
Carrying the torch ceremony led to demonstrations.
Do our candidates discuss it on the campaign trail?
I doubt it.
The economy and the war take precedence.
The Chinese living in Beijing are affected.
Yeah. How do you know, though?
A Washington Post reporter, Miss Fan, wrote about it.
She lives there, huh?
I think so.
More than 1 billion people are in China.
How do you know all this?
I guess I'm just naturally bright.
You read a lot.
Got plenty of time on my hands.
Now, what's that mean?
It means I work full time, but I like to read too.
Not like me.
Okay, semi-retired.
True, I am a TV producer.
Isn't everybody now?
Yeah, digital cameras, big deal.
What's that?
You keep forgetting everybody isn't brilliant.
What happened to the China story?
The Yu family has a nut shop.
On the road from the Olympic parade.
They'll sell a lot of nuts.
If it's still there.
Bureaucrats want to pull it down.
What about the courts, the law?
Maybe. Not so smart.
A small house they own is falling apart.
You mean it's an eyesore?
Well, it's covered with politicians' pictures they showed in the news.
Yeah, Comrade Mao and Deng President Ginato. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, that's good. To show that they love the party, yeah.
And the response is to tear it down?
But improve the city's image.
Where does the family live then?
The government's offered some money.
Parties don't negotiate.
That's the Communist Party. Take it or else.
So ordinary people can't refuse?
So they call the TV station, the papers, the youth protesters.
Demonstrations are not good for the Olympic image.
The signs say, protect your home with the Constitution.
Is that a gag?
The Olympic slogan, one world, one dream.
But the court says demolish the shop.
Without any legal basis.
So there's no responsibility for eviction.
But public anger could ignite from the demonstrations.
In the countryside, corruption's even worse.
With the collusion of developers and local officials.
What about the principle of the law?
It conflicts with preemptive measures against dissidents.
Wow.
Authorities can't go too far.
Yet they continue to destroy properties.
Plant grass, paint, turn them into a park.
Anyway, it was an illegal nut shop.
Say the authorities.
And the games will begin soon.
Maybe the Human Rights Commission will help.
Suppose the New Yorker did a satirical cartoon about this.
Sure, the use in the shop remnants being trampled by the Olympians.
With the athletes smiling victoriously.
I wouldn't find it amusing.
Communist Party wouldn't like it either.
Well, it's certainly not politically correct.
Chinese people might find it satisfying.
President Bush then and Condi Rice not interested.
The UN's not paying attention.
I guess it's not that shocking.
Like the cover on Barack and Michelle?
In the New Yorker. But satire is about exaggeration.
Muslims don't find it acceptable.
Remember Sallen Rushdie?
Unless they're ugly cartoons spelling out bigotry.
After McCain is nominated, we'll see jokes on his prison life.
Did the U's know about the real estate auctions here?
The owners are unable to meet the mortgage payments.
Maybe the U's are just squatters.
What about courts, lawyers, the law?
They got a constitution and a legal system.
Well, if they decide to use it, I guess.
Yes, the party officials make decisions.
Well, it was an interesting story in the paper.
Meanwhile, Obama is traveling to Europe and the war.
Britain, France, Germany, Jordan, Israel, and all the other Arab countries, even at... Go ahead.
Even Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah. And he and McCain are still presumptive candidates. This is 2008.
Waiting for convention anointments.
Everybody is sitting around waiting.
Come on, people all know who will be named.
Yeah, it's like Hillary. Yes, but why do we have to go through it?
We're a nation of laws.
And the politicians want it this way.
The U's say they have no choice.
Either way, the nut house is gone.
The Communist Party speaks as the will of the people.
Backed by a large obedient army and police force.
Our economy is in trouble, jobs being lost.
Gas and fuel prices up, the cost of food.
Housing market has gone south.
And we're not preparing for the Olympics.
So what happens to the U's?
Sent packing to their relatives in their old homes.
They become refugees.
And the Chinese government is closing a third of all Beijing factories for the Olympics.
Well, it'll greatly improve air pollution.
It's believed. And all those workers are arbitrarily furloughed.
What becomes of them during the Olympics?
Am I a member of the Central Committee of the Communist Party?
The party's first secretary knows.
They're good at planning.
Yeah, but capitalist ideas got their economy booming.
With all our troubles, I'll stick to our system.
With our crazy campaigning.
Well, you won't be able to buy nuts on that Olympic Boulevard this summer, I guess.
Blackout.
Blackout, okay.
All right, that was nuts.
That was nice. Okay.
I wonder what kind of nuts they were selling. What kind of nuts do they sell in China?
I don't know. Well, if the walls are coming down, it's walnuts or something. I don't know.
That was a very, very bad joke.
I know. That's why. I don't know. What do they have? I go to Chinese restaurants. They never serve nuts.
There's I was gonna say I think there's cashews in some things, or maybe.
Yeah, they might have cashews
yeah.
with those things on the top.
We have not discussed anything really going on in the news. You spend all this time researching topics for our show.
Yeah. What about Ebola?
You mean Ebola?
Ebola.
Ebola. What about it?
Well,
I mean, it's a bad thing.
It's spreading in Africa.
It's ridiculous.
They're not bringing it here. There was one doctor that they wanted to bring here, but she died, unfortunately. 4 doctors have died from Ebola.
Wow.
Well,
I say well a lot.
Scotland is voting for whether it'll become independent from England. What about that?
I fully support that.
You do?
Absolutely. Why not? They have every right to be independent and be their own people.
Sean Connery,
he'd be thrilled.
He'd be elected to an office.
Yeah,
for
well,
that. They like him.
He'd be president.
He could. Well, prime minister.
Or whatever.
I don't
whatever
think,
their system is going to be.
2 banks said they wouldn't. They'd leave. They'd go back. They go to England.
Oh wait, whatever.
2 big banks.
Change is hard, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing.
Well, okay, you're right. Okay.
We get.
Anyways, the Pats won a game, so that's all right too.
Are you happy with that?
Well, I want them to have a new man. I watched some of it, a little of it, not much. He loves it.
Arch loves the Pats.
Yeah, he loves the game. Well, he plays a good football player in college. Yeah. The Sox are up and down, and I think they need a different manager.
This guy's only been with them a few years, right?
Yeah, this year and last year. Last year they won he came from Toronto, and they won the pennant and the World Series. I think he's lousy this year. Now they're in last place. When he left Toronto, the team there was in last place.
But he did good last year.
Last year, that was a fluke, I think. All right, Arch will say I don't know what I'm talking about. But if I ask Arch about the Red Sox, he'd say to me, "Who cares?" You know.
Okay.
All right.
And I'm going to go with that sentiment. Who cares?
Yeah, the Boston Magazine retracts private secondary school rankings.
I don't know, but we only have 1 minute left. And we haven't been able to sing Irene's song all summer.
I'll play it this year. All right. Yeah, by the way, this is apple picking weather, in case you don't know it. And the Lyric Theater at Copley Square is doing Sweeney Todd, a very good show, by the way.
Excellent. Is that it?
What do I have? Cereal. Cereal fights to hold on as the U.S. breakfast staple. People are stopping eating.
What are they eating now?
They're eating yogurt and fruit.
Granola? Pancakes?
Pancakes, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know either. This is it. Where does the half an hour go each time?
Me with my big mouth.
This definitely was your show.
Yeah, tonight.
Tonight. It was all you.
All right.
You got to start it.
All right. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene.
Irene, good night. Irene, good night.
We'll see you in
our dreams. Yay! All right.
Well, we finished.
Excellent.
Is that 1 minute?
I think we have a couple more seconds.
We still have a couple more.
Oh no, we're going to fading. We're fading.
There we are.
That was it.
We hope